Welcome to HQ Midday. I'm Tommy Tran. Happy Friday, everybody. We're setting up for an action-packed weekend of sports, from a ton of football to MLB's playoffs and UFC north of the border. Speaking of football, pretty good slate here in the college game on a Friday. Second-ranked Miami Hurricanes coming off a bye, hosting Louisville. It's just under 2 touchdown favorites at Hard Rock Stadium. 25th ranked Nebraska at Minnesota. Then over on CBS Sports Network, Mountain West action with San Jose State and Utah State. But this is the game we're going to talk about right now. Late game in the Bay Area where Cal hosts North Carolina. Tar Heels coming off a bye after falling to 2-3 in a blowout loss at home to Clemson. Safe to say things aren't going as planned for UNC. Bill Belichick earlier this week addressing many things, including his job status with the Tar Heels.
Right off the bat, some of the reports out last week about my looking for a buyout and trying to leave here and all that. It's categorically false. There's zero truth to any of that. Glad I'm here. We're working towards our goals and the process. Had great support from Chancellor Roberts, Bubba, Steve, and so forth. Mike Lombardi. It's been those people have all been great, and I appreciate all their help and everything. And we just believe very much in the process. Kind of like Bill Walsh said, the score will take care of itself.
You're telling me that you believe this process is working?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a learning curve. We're all in it together, but we're making a lot of progress, and the process will eventually produce the results that we want to produce, like they have everywhere else I've been. So I'm very confident in that.
Let's bring in Chip Patterson of the Cover 3 podcast, where, look, it's not from that graphic, Chip, not uncharted territory, but certainly in the college game, it would be for Bill Belichick. What did you make of his comments this week, as there's a lot of pressure surrounding him in the program?
Very glad you asked, Tommy, because he mentioned a few names there. The athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, who's outgoing. Steve Newmark, the incoming athletic director. The chancellor, Lee Roberts. And you know why he was able to mention all those names, Tommy? Because all of those individuals were at the press conference. Totally normal for a university president, 2 athletic directors to just be checking in on things. I mean, it's like when your boss says, hey, what do you do during the workday? Hey, can I shadow you? That normally is when things are going well, right? No. This is a very, very tense and important time. That off week might have been the most important week for the Bill Belichick era at North Carolina, because they're getting on a plane, they're going out to Berkeley, they're going to have to bring their own juice, and they're going to have to find a turnaround, because for all the greatness that Bill Belichick has achieved as a football head coach, to me, it's got to be in that locker room. He's got to find a way to get these guys to buy in, and he's got to find a way to get this team to turn things around, because they have said all week long, we're not changing play calling. We're not changing any of the coaching responsibilities. Like, let's forget about all the buyout reports or anything about, what might be happening at a higher level. Take me inside the locker room. Show me that this team is bought in and that this team can play better than what they have. Because again, as we have discussed, Tommy, this team is playing historically bad for North Carolina football standards. A program that has perennially been around a 6-6, 7-5 type program is looking like it is careening towards 3-9 or even 2-10. So I would like to see not necessarily the comments from somebody who is very clearly under pressure up at the microphone. I want to see the performance from the players on the field.
When they take on Justin Wilcox and the surprisingly good Cal team, will they be 3-3 or 2-4?
I believe that they will be 2-4. I think that the struggles that North Carolina has offensively do not have a great answer. Whether it is Gio Lopez, who's been banged up all throughout the season, whether it is Max Johnson, who is probably a little bit of a better downfield passer, but has his own limitations. The group as a whole has just really struggled, among the worst power conference offenses in the entire country. And while you are going to play a Cal team that does have a high variance, I mean, their ceiling is being able to go out there and beat almost anybody. Their floor is getting shut out by San Diego State. We don't know what we're going to get. There's a big variable there, but you got to score points to win football games. And right now, North Carolina's offense is not doing a good job of scoring points.
So if they get to where you think they will by the end of the night and then going macro with their season, what would it take for Bill Belichick to not return for another season, you think?
You would have to go into the early, you would have to be looking towards the early signing period, because I do believe you give Bill Belichick the rest of the season. You don't even entertain any kind of let's break free of this. You've invested too much, and I think that Bill Belichick does deserve to be able to have a chance to see this thing out. But there's a couple of games at the end of the season that are going to mean a whole lot to the North Carolina fan base. And Tommy, they're going to mean a lot to the North Carolina boosters, because what we saw at Penn State is that emotional decisions are being made right now in college football. The money people, if they feel like that their hearts are being broken or if they are being embarrassed, will all of a sudden be motivated in a new way to cut checks for buyouts that we previously thought could never be reached. And there are games at the end of the season against Duke, against North Carolina, against Wake Forest. I mean, Bill Belichick could really reverse a lot of the vibes by beating the in-state opponents. He could also see this get a lot worse and more toxic if the Tar Heels find themselves embarrassed by their neighbors in the ACC.
You brought up buyouts. We certainly saw what happened to James Franklin in Penn State. That's led to linkage to Matt Rule. Nebraska back in the rankings after the win against Maryland, but they are back-to-back road games on a short week. How much of a distraction do you think this is for the Cornhuskers and Matt Rule, given everything that he's been talking about and downplaying this week?
I do not think it is a distraction that impacts my expectations for this game at all. Now, talk to me at the end of the season when we get into November and when we get a little bit closer to any kind of reality. But whether it is a Penn State booster who wants to bring Matt Rule home, or whether it's a Nebraska football player like Dylan Raiola who might be wondering what the future is, I just think that on October 17th, it is just way too far beyond where we're at, because Nebraska, as you mentioned, does have a tough test going on the road against a Minnesota team that, for my money, has fallen well short of expectations. It's a game that, in a simulation, in a vacuum, Nebraska has a huge edge with their ability to run the football with Emmett Johnson and a Minnesota run defense that's taken a big step back. But this game ain't played in a vacuum. This game ain't played in a simulation. If PJ Fleck can get this Minnesota team up for a big stage national spotlight game with a ranked team in town, Nebraska has to stay more buttoned up, because they have, while they are a one-loss team and while they have broken into the AP Top 25, they have been very inconsistent in some of these performances, even in the wins. And this is the kind of opponent, Minnesota, that can really make you pay for your mistakes. And so I do think Nebraska is able to get in and out with a victory thanks to that ground game. But, buddy, too many turnovers and things could get hairy for the Huskers.
7.5-point spread in that game. We have a 13.5-point spread in the Miami-Louisville game at Hard Rock for the number 2 team in the country, which, Chip, you and I with Danny Cannell would do a pick show on HQ Spotlight, and we talked about that 13.5, some viewing it as being a little bit fishy. They don't understand why it possibly could be more. But just give me your thoughts on what the Miami effort's going to be and what type of gameplay we'll see tonight.
Yeah, I think that Miami has one thing that, for the most part, is going to be rock solid, consistent like a good burger. And that is the dominance at the lines of scrimmage. Now, is the pass game going to maybe be a little bit slow to get started as the now number 2 Canes are coming out of an off week, 2 weeks removed from the win against Florida State, their rival in Tallahassee? Yeah, maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if it's not exactly totally in rhythm when it comes to the offensive skill positions. But this is a game that I think Miami understands from looking at the tape. They can just lean on this Louisville team, because Louisville's offensive line is just a liability, made life very, very tough on Miller Moss. He's throwing interceptions. He's running for his life. He's taking sacks. And so if I see James Madison and Virginia really being able to whip up on Louisville, then yes, I do think that Ruben Bain and Akeem Messidor, the star-studded defensive ends for Miami, are going to cause some real problems in this game. Now, when you talk about the spread, Tommy, I think the reason that we see it where it is for 3 words: big game Brom. Because Louisville coach Jeff Brom is, for my money, one of the best in terms of scheming up your quarterback to give them easy throws. So maybe Louisville comes out, maybe Louisville's out to a 7-0, 10-3 type start at the beginning of this game. But again, That advantage in the trenches is where I think this game is decided. Miami understands, Mario Cristobal understands that if they just continue to lean on Louisville at the lines of scrimmage, eventually they will break. Might be a little slow starting for the Canes, and that again would contribute to a lower spread than you would expect. But I do think Miami avoids the Friday night upset at home.
As we wrap up this conversation, Chip, what is the Cover 3 podcast doing for CBS Sports Network tonight?
Oh, golly, Tommy, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so we have been very, very honored to be a part of some of the halftime broadcasts of the Thursday and Friday night games. Tonight, your San Jose State Spartans will be on the road to take on Utah State. And at halftime, you'll get a nice little segment from the Cover 3 podcast on college football playoff dark horses. We all offer one. We all defend it, and a little bit of banter to go with it. So, again, check out the game. It is a 9 o'clock kickoff on CBS Sports Network. And at halftime, the Cover 3 podcast making an appearance talking about CFP dark horses.
Love that. Check out Chip Patterson, Tom Fornelli, Bud Elliott, and Danny Cannell on the Cover 3 podcast. They had Thursday locks. Chip mentioned what they've got going on tonight. Instant reaction on Saturday nights, getting you covered. Scan the QR code. Chip going to stick around to talk Heisman watch as we'll tackle short shots and dark horses next on HQ.